Ferrari S.p.A.is is an Italian sports car manufacturer based in Maranello, founded by Enzo Ferrari in 1939 as Auto Avio Costruzioni. The company built its first car in 1940. However, the company's inception as an auto manufacturer is usually recognized in 1947, when the first Ferrari-badged car was completed. Ferrari is the world's most powerful brand according to Brand Finance. In May 2012, the 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO became the most expensive car in history, selling in a private transaction for $38.1 million to American communications magnate Craig McCaw. Fiat S.p.A. acquired 50% of Ferrari in 1969 and expanded its stake to 90% in 1988. In October 2014, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles announced its intentions to separate Ferrari from FCA. As of the announcement, FCA owned 90% of Ferrari. The separation began in October 2015 with a restructuring that established Ferrari N.V. as the new holding company of the Ferrari Group and the subsequent sale by FCA of 10% of the shares in an IPO and concurrent listing of common shares on the New York Stock Exchange. Through the remaining steps of the separation, FCA's interest in Ferrari's business was distributed to shareholders of FCA, with 10% continuing to be owned by Piero Ferrari. The spin-off was completed on 3 January 2016. Throughout its history, the company has been noted for its continued participation in racing, especially in Formula One, where it is the most successful racing team, holding the most Constructors' Championships and having produced the highest number of winning drivers. Ferrari road cars are generally seen as a symbol of speed, luxury and wealth. History. Enzo Ferrari was not initially interested in the idea of producing road cars when he formed Scuderia Ferrari in 1929, with headquarters in Modena. Scuderia Ferrari literally means Ferrari stable and is usually used to mean Team Ferrari. Ferrari bought, prepared and fielded Alfa Romeo racing cars for gentleman drivers. In 1933, Alfa Romeo withdrew its in-house racing team and Scuderia Ferrari took over as its works team. The Scuderia received Alfa's Grand Prix cars of the latest specifications and fielded many famous drivers such as Tazio Nuvolari and Achille Vatsi. In 1938, Alfa Romeo brought its racing operation again in-house, forming Alfa Corse in Milano and hired Enzo Ferrari as manager of the new racing department. Therefore, the Scuderia Ferrari was disbanded. In September 1939, Enzo Ferrari left Alfa Romeo under the provision that he would not use the Ferrari name in association with races or racing cars, for at least 4 years. A few days later, he founded Auto Avio Costruzioni, headquartered in the facilities of the old Scuderia Ferrari. The new company ostensibly produced machine tools and aircraft accessories. In 1940, Ferrari did in fact produce a race car, the Tipo 815, based on a Fiat platform. It was the first Ferrari car and debuted at the 1940 Mille Miglia, but due to World War II, it saw little competition. In 1943, the Ferrari factory moved to Maranello, where it has remained ever since. The factory was bombed by the Allies and subsequently rebuilt, including a works for road car production. The first Ferrari-badged car was the 1947125S, powered by a 1.5L V12 engine Enzo Ferrari reluctantly built and sold his automobiles to fund Scuderia Ferrari. The Scuderia Ferrari name was resurrected to denote the factory racing cars and distinguish them from those fielded by customer teams. In 1960, the company was restructured as a public corporation under the name Ferrari S.p.A.is. Early in 1969, Fiat took a 50% stake in Ferrari. An immediate result was an increase in available investment funds, and work started at once on a factory extension intended to transfer production from Fiat's Turin plant of the Ferrari-engined Fiat Dino. New model investment further up in the Ferrari range also received a boost. In 1988, Enzo Ferrari oversaw the launch of the Ferrari F40, the last new Ferrari to be launched before his death later that year, and arguably one of the most famous supercars ever made. In 1989, the company was renamed as Ferrari S.p.A.is. From 2002 to 2004, Ferrari produced the Enzo, the fastest model at the time, which was introduced and named in honor of the company's founder, Enzo Ferrari. It was to be called the F60, continuing on from the F40 and F50, but Ferrari was so pleased with it, they called it the Enzo instead. It was initially offered to loyal and recurring customers. Each of the 399 made had a price tag of $650,000 apiece. On the 15th of September 2012, 964 Ferrari cars attended the Ferrari Driving Days event at Silverstone Circuit and paraded round the Silverstone Circuit, setting a world record. Ferrari's former CEO and chairman, Luca di Montesmolo, resigned from the company after 23 years, who was succeeded by Amedeo Felisa, and finally on the 3rd of May 2016, Amedeo resigned and was succeeded by Sergio Marchionne, CEO and chairman of Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, Ferrari's parent company. On the 29th of October 2014, the FCA Group, resulting from the merger between manufacturers Fiat and Chrysler, announced the split of its luxury brand, Ferrari. The aim is to turn Ferrari into an independent brand, which 10% of stake will be sold in an IPO in 2015. Ferrari officially priced its initial public offering at $52 a share after the market close on the 20th of October 2015. Motorsport. Since the company's beginnings, Ferrari has been involved in motorsport, competing in a range of categories including Formula One and sports car racing through its Scuderia Ferrari sporting division, as well as supplying cars and engines to other teams and for one-make race series. The 1940 AAC 815 was the first racing car to be designed by Enzo Ferrari, although it was not badged as a Ferrari model. Scuderia Ferrari. Scuderia Ferrari has participated in several classes of motorsport, though it is currently only officially involved in Formula One. It is the only team to have competed in the Formula One World Championship continuously since its inception in 1950. José Froilán González gave the team its first F1 victory at the 1951 British Grand Prix. Alberto Ascari gave Ferrari its first Drivers' Championship a year later. Ferrari is the oldest team in the championship and the most successful. The team holds nearly every Formula One record. As of 2014, the team's records include 15 World Drivers' Championship titles, 16 World Constructors' Championship titles, 221 Grand Prix victories, 6,736.27 points, 679 podium finishes, 207 pole positions, and 230 fastest laps in 890 20 Grand Prix contested. Of the 19 tracks used in 2014, 8 have lap records set by the Ferrari F2004, with a further 3 set by the Ferrari F2003 GA, Ferrari F2008 and Ferrari F10. Ferrari drivers include Tazio Nuvolari, José Froilán González, Juan Manuel Fangio, Alberto Ascari, Luigi Chinetti, Maurice Trintignant, Wolfgang von Trips, Phil Hill, Olivier Genderby, Mike Hawthorne, Peter Collins, Giancarlo Baghetti, Ricardo Rodriguez, Chris Amon, John Surtees, Lorenzo Bandini, Ludovico Scarfiotti, Jackie Ickx, Mario Andretti, Clay Regazzoni, Niki Lauda, Carlos Reutemann, Jody Scheckter, Charles Villeneuve, Didier Pironi, Patrick Tambay, René Arnoux, Michele Alboreto, Gerhard Berger, Nigel Mansell, Alain Prost, Gene Alesi, Michael Schumacher, Eddie Irvine, Rubens Barrichello, Felipe Massa, Kimi Raikkonen, Fernando Alonso, and Sebastian Vettel. At the end of the 2006 season, the team courted controversy by continuing to allow Marlboro to sponsor them after they, along with the other F1 teams, made a promise to end sponsorship deals with tobacco manufacturers. A 5-year deal was agreed, and although this was not due to end until 2011, in April 2008 Marlboro dropped their on-car branding on Ferrari. The drivers competing for 2009 were Felipe Massa and Kimi Raikkonen. In 2010 Fernando Alonso started racing for Ferrari after racing for Renault, Minardi and McLaren, filling Kimi Raikkonen's former seat. In addition to Formula One, Ferrari also entered cars in sports car racing, the two programs existing in parallel for many years. In 1949, Luigi Chinetti drove a 166m to Ferrari's first win in motorsports, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Ferrari went on to dominate the early years of the World Sports Car Championship, which was created in 1953, winning the title 7 out of its first 9 years. When the championship format changed in 1962, Ferrari earned titles in at least one class each year through to 1965 and then again in 1967. Ferrari would win one final title, the 1972 World Championship of Makes, before Enzo decided to leave sports car racing after 1973 and allow Scuderia Ferrari to concentrate solely on Formula One. During Ferrari's seasons of the World Sports Cars Championship, they also gained more wins at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, with the factory team earning the first in 1954. Another win would come in 1958, followed by 5 consecutive wins from 1960 to 1964. Luigi Chinetti's North American racing team would take Ferrari's final victory at Le Mans in 1965. Although Scuderia Ferrari no longer participated in sports cars after 1973, they have occasionally built various successful sports cars for privateers. These include the BB512LM in the 1970s, the 333 SP which won the IMSA GT Championship in the 1990s, and currently the 458 GT2 and GT3 which are currently winning championships in the respective classes. Race cars for other teams. Throughout its history, Ferrari has supplied racing cars to other entrants, aside from its own works Scuderia Ferrari team. In the 1950s and 60s, Ferrari supplied Formula One cars to a number of private entrants and other teams. One famous example was Tony Vanderville's team, which raced the Thinwell Special modified Ferraris before building their own van-wall cars. The North American racing team's entries in the final 3 rounds of the 1969 season were the last occasions on which a team other than Scuderia Ferrari entered a World Championship Grand Prix with a Ferrari car. Ferrari supplied cars complete with V8 engines for the A1 Grand Prix series. From the 2008-09 season, the car was designed by Rory Byrne and is styled to resemble a 2004 Ferrari Formula One car. Ferrari currently runs a customer GT program for a racing version of its 458 model, and has done so for the 458's predecessors, dating back to the 355 in the late 1990s. Such private teams as the American Risi Competizione and Italian AF Corse teams have been very successful with Ferrari GT races over the years. This car, made for endurance sports car racing to be competed against such racing versions of the Audi R8, McLaren MP412C, and BMW Z4, has proven to be successful, but not as successful as its predecessor, the F430. The Ferrari Challenge is a one-make racing series for the Ferrari 458. The FXX is not road legal, and is therefore only used for track events. Road cars. Ferrari's first vehicle was the 125S Sports racing model. In 1949, the Ferrari 166 Inter was introduced. The presentation of this car marked the company's first move into the Grand Touring market, which continues to make up the bulk of Ferrari sales to the present day. Several early cars featured bodywork customized by a number of coach builders such as Pininfarina, Zagato and Bertone. The Dino was the first mid-engine Ferrari. This layout would go on to be used in most Ferraris of the 1980s and 1990s. V8 Ferrari models make up well over half of the marque's total production. For a time, Ferrari built 2+2 versions of its mid-engined V8 cars. Although they looked quite different from the two-seat counterparts, both the GT4 and Mondial were closely related to the 308 GTB. The company has also produced front-engine 2+2 cars, culminating in the current California. Ferrari entered the mid-engine 12-cylinder fray with the Berlinetta Boxer in 1973. The later Testarossa remains one of the most famous Ferraris. Current models supercars. The company's loftiest efforts have been in the supercar market. The 1984 GTO may be considered the first in the line of Ferrari supercars, which extends to the recent LaFerrari model. Concept cars and specials. Ferrari has produced a number of concept cars, such as the Ferrari Mythos. While some of these were quite radical and never intended for production, others such as the Ferrari Mythos have shown styling elements which were later incorporated into production models. The most recent concept car to be produced by Ferrari themselves was the 2010 Ferrari Milescili. A number of one-off special versions of Ferrari road cars have also been produced, commissioned to coach builders by wealthy owners. Recent examples include the Ferrari P450 by Pininfarina and the Ferrari 612 Kappa. Ferrari Special Projects. The Special Projects program was launched in the late 2000s as Ferrari's ultimate in-house personalization service, enabling customers to own bespoke-bodied one-offs based on modern Ferrari road cars. Engineering and design is done by Ferrari, sometimes in cooperation with external design houses like Pininfarina or Avanti, and the vehicles receive full homologation to be road legal. The first car to be completed under this program was the 2008 Ferrari S.p.A.is, commissioned by a Japanese business executive. The second was the P540 Superfast Aperta, commissioned by an American collector. The following is a list of special projects cars that have been made public: biofuel and hybrid cars. A F430 Spider that runs on ethanol was displayed at the 2008 Detroit Auto Show. At the 2010 Geneva Motor Show, Ferrari unveiled a hybrid version of the flagship 599. Called the High-Curse concept. Ferrari's hybrid system adds more than 100 horsepower on top of the 599 Fiorano's 612 HP. Also in mid-2014, LaFerrari was put into production. Naming conventions until the early 1980s, Ferrari followed a three-number naming scheme based on engine displacement. V6 and V8 models used the total displacement for the first two digits and the number of cylinders as the third. Thus, the 206 was a 2.0L V6 powered vehicle, while the 348 used a 3.4L V8, although, for the F355, the last digit refers to 5 valves per cylinder. Upon introduction of the 360 Modena, the digits for V8 models refer only to total engine displacement. The numerical indication aspect of this name carried on to the F430, however the F430's replacement, the 458 Italia, uses the same naming as the 206 and 348. V12 models used the displacement of one cylinder. Therefore, the famed 365 Daytona had a 4,390 cc V12. However, some newer V12-engined Ferraris, such as the 599, have three-number designations that refer only to total engine displacement. Flat 12 models used the displacement in liters for the first digit and the number of cylinders for the next two digits. Therefore, the BB 512 was 5-liter flat 12. However, the original Berlinetta Boxer was the 365 GT4BB, which was named in a similar manner to the V12 models. Flagship models used the letter F followed by the anniversary in years, such as the F40 and F50. The Enzo skipped this rule, although the F60 name was applied to a Ferrari Formula One car and is sometimes attached to the Enzo. Some models, such as the 1980 Mondial and the 1984 Testarossa, did not follow a three-number naming scheme. Most Ferraris were also given designations referring to the body style. In general, the following conventions were used. M, placed at the end of a model's number, denotes a modified version of its predecessor and not a complete evolution. GTB models are closed Berlinettas, or coupes. GTS in older models are open Spiders, or convertibles. However, in more recent models, this suffix is used for targa top models. The convertible models now use the suffix Spider. GTO, placed at the end of a model's number, denotes a modified version of its predecessor. Indeed, those three letters designate a model which has been designed and improved for racetrack use while still being a street-legal model. Only three models bear those three letters: the 250 GTO of 1962, the 288 GTO of 1984 and the 599 GTO of 2010. This naming system can be confusing, as some entirely different vehicles used the same engine type and body style. Many Ferraris also had other names affixed to identify them further. Many such names are actually not official factory names. The Daytona name commemorates Ferrari's triple success in the February 1967 24 Hours of Daytona with the 330 P4. Only in the 1973 Daytona 24 Hours, a 365 GTB4 model run by NART ran second, behind the Porsche 911. The various Dino models were named for Enzo's son, Dino Ferrari, and were marketed as Dinos by Ferrari and sold at Ferrari dealers. For all intents and purposes they are Ferraris. In the mid-1990s, Ferrari added the letter F to the beginning of all models' identity. The famous symbol of the Ferrari race team is the Cavallino Rampante, black prancing stallion on a yellow shield, usually with the letters SF, with 3 stripes of green, white and red at the top. Road cars have a rectangular badge on the hood, and optionally, the shield-shaped race logo on the sides of both front wings, close to the door. On the 17th of June 1923, Enzo Ferrari won a race at the Savio track in Ravenna, where he met the Countess Paolina, mother of Count Francesco Baracca, an ace of the Italian Air Force and national hero of World War I, who used to paint a horse on the side of his planes. The Countess asked Enzo to use this horse on his cars, suggesting that it would bring him good luck. The original prancing horse on Baracca's airplane was painted in red on a white cloud-like shape, but Ferrari chose to have the horse in black, and he added a canary yellow background, as this is the color of the city of Modena, his birthplace. The Ferrari horse was, for the very beginning, markedly different from the Baracca horse in most details, the most noticeable being the tail that in the original Baracca version was pointing downward. Ferrari has used the Cavallino Rampante on official company stationery since 1929. Since the S.p.A. 24 Hours of 9 July 1932, the Cavallino Rampante has been used on Alfa Romeo's race by Scuderia Ferrari. The motif of a prancing horse is old. It can be found on ancient coins. A similar black horse on a yellow shield is the coat of arms of the German city of Stuttgart, home of Mercedes-Benz and the design bureau of Porsche, both being main competitors of Alfa and Ferrari in the 1930s. The city's name derives from Stuttgarten, an ancient form of the German word Geststadt, which translates into English as stud farm and into Italian as scuderia. Porsche also includes the Stuttgart sign in its corporate logo, centered in the emblem of the state of Württemberg. Stuttgart's Rossel has both rear legs firmly planted on the soil, like Baracca's horse, but unlike Ferrari's Cavallino, Fabio Taglioni used the Cavallino Rampante on his Ducati motorbikes, as Taglioni was born at Lugo di Romagna like Baracca, and his father too was a military pilot during World War I. As Ferrari's fame grew, Ducati abandoned the horse, perhaps the result of a private agreement between the two companies. The Cavallino Rampante is the visual symbol of Ferrari. Cavallino magazine uses the name, but not the logo. Other companies use similar logos. Avanti, an Austrian company operating over 100 filling stations, uses a prancing horse logo which is nearly identical to Ferrari's, as does Iron Horse Bicycles and Norfolk Southern Railway. Color. Since the 1920s, Italian race cars of Alfa Romeo, Maserati and later Ferrari and Abarth were painted in race red. This was the customary national racing color of Italy, as recommended between the world wars by the organizations that later would become the FIA. It refers to the nationality of the competing team, not that of the car manufacturer or driver. In that scheme, French-entered cars such as Bugatti were blue, German such as Benz and Mercedes white, and British green such as the mid-1960s Lotus and BRM. For instance, Ferrari won the 1960 1964 World Championship with John Surtees by competing the last two races in North America with cars painted in the U.S. American race colors white and blue, as these were not entered by the Italian factory themselves but by the U.S.-based North American racing team. This was done as a protest concerning arguments between Ferrari and the Italian racing authorities regarding the homologation of a new mid-engined Ferrari race car. Corporate affairs. In 1963, Enzo Ferrari was approached by the Ford Motor Company about a possible buyout. Ford audited Ferrari's assets, but legal negotiations and talks were unilaterally cut off by Ferrari when he realized that the deal offered by Ford would not enable him to stay at the helm of the company racing program. Henry Ford too consequently directed his racing division to negotiate with Lotus, and Cooper to build a car capable of beating Ferrari on the World Endurance Circuit, eventually resulting in the production of the Ford GT40 in 1964. As the Ford deal fell through, Fiat approached Ferrari with a more flexible proposal and purchased controlling interests in the company in 1969. Enzo Ferrari retained a 10% share, which is currently owned by his son Piero Lardi Ferrari. Ferrari has an internally managed merchandising line that licenses many products bearing the Ferrari brand, including eyewear, pens, pencils, electronic goods, perfume, cologne, clothing, high-tech bicycles, watches, cell phones and laptop computers. Ferrari also runs a museum, the Museo Ferrari in Maranello, which displays road and race cars and other items from the company's history. Technical partnerships. Ferrari has had a long-standing relationship with Shell Oil. It is a technical partnership with Ferrari and Ducati to test as well as supply fuel and oils to the Formula One, MotoGP and World Superbike racing teams. For example, the Shell V-Power, a premium gasoline fuel, has been developed with the many years of technical expertise between Shell and Ferrari. Ferrari have had agreements to supply Formula One engines to a number of other teams over the years, and currently supply Toro Rosso F1 team, Sauber F1 team, and Haas F1 team. Sales history. As of 2008, the estimated total of Ferrari built and sold cars in whole company history was about 130,000. Asterisk figure refers to units produced rather than to units shipped. Stores.